So let's get into it. So this is really about how to be productive and get results. And we're going to kind of finish with the kind of what I call the nuts and bolts, the bit of being productive. But before I got into that, what I wanted to do, and this is really just because I've been speaking to, various of you guys over the last few weeks. And I kind of felt that it would help if we could kind of zone you in on really the things that matter, the things that are going to move the needle for you, which essentially is getting leads in and getting deals funded. Because it's very easy to get distracted by a lot of other stuff that we might think is important, but actually is not conducive to actually making money, right? So, Patrick, by the way, feel free to come in at any point. So what we're going to, sorry, you're going to say something there? No. So what we're going to focus on first is just, if you think about what we're doing here, 3 very simple things. Sales, which includes all of the outbound that we're doing, but then also follow up. And I want to just focus on that. And then marketing, right? Sales, marketing. That is really it. So what we want to do is understand what is it we need to do from a sales perspective to get the deal flow coming in. And what is it we need to do from a marketing perspective to help get that deal flow coming in? And then how do we break that all down into, well, what do I need to do tomorrow to create the outcomes that I'm looking for this week and this month, which ultimately is funded deals and a monetary outcome. Patrick, did you want to add anything there?
Yeah, I'll just add that, like you were saying earlier, these are the things that people focus on that actually like grow businesses quickly. And we've worked with, like, over the years, tons of people to help them grow businesses in sort of the same capacity as this program. And when it comes down to what separates the people that succeed really quickly, and when we talk to them, they're like getting success and making a lot of money, and the people that are not, it always comes down to the stuff that we're going to talk about today. And because there's only certain things that actually put gas in the car, that actually help move the business forwards. And a lot of people, for whatever reason, end up focusing on these things that don't really move the needle in the business and aren't actually helping take you forwards. And we all have the same amount of time in every day. You've probably heard people say that. And it comes down to what things you focus on. And a lot of people will burn through months at a time and not see the progress they're looking for and not know why. And it's because they're not focused on the right things. And if you just spend more time than anyone else focusing on these things, then it's pretty much guaranteed that you're going to be able to figure out the challenges and move forwards in the business and make the money you want to be making with it. And if you focus on the other things that don't really move the needle, you can spend an infinite amount of time on those and not get anywhere. So yeah, Gavin, I think that's pretty much it.
Cool, man. Cool. So I would normally say show of hands here, but, and this is not a trick question, but how many of you are currently setting sort of daily or weekly goals or even monthly goals for the work that you're doing, the outreach work that you're doing? Just say yes or no. This, again, it's not a trick question.
Yes.
Yeah. Yep.
Okay. What sort of goals are you setting? Is it, lead count, monetary? How are you going about that?
Mine's been mostly lead count.
Oh, I should have just said, okay, Patricia, you go first of all.
Mine's been mostly lead count, and I'm getting the leads on LinkedIn. It's Facebook, finding the leads I need to contact in that, not so much as I have been with LinkedIn.
Okay.
So I just keep reviewing the how to do that on our training.
No worries. And just give me an idea, what lead count target have you set, say, for this week?
The lead count has been pretty much 50 to 90 per day.
What, leads coming in, or is that outbound?
Making contacting.
Right, okay. 15.90 a day. Right, perfect. Derek, I think you were talking as well. What's your how do you set your goals?
Well, from the outset, my first goal was a monetary goal, as far as I want to make a certain amount of money per month. But that's my primary, and then my secondary goal is getting on the phone or getting in contact with, I would say, at least 10 quality leads per month. Quality to me seems to be more important than the actual quantity of leads. So if I can get to 10 quality leads per month, that would be a good goal for myself.
Okay, yeah, that's cool. Anybody else? Anyone else setting goals at all?
Well, this is Jerome.
Hey, man.
Hey, guys. Hey. For me, I kind of look at it as a fishing expedition. So, my goal is to shoot out 50 to 75 contacts a day. And then, soon as they come back in, I start trying to cultivate those conversations. And Gavin, you know that,
yeah,
that's been a pretty exciting thing, just trying to navigate that. But I'm laying the foundation going into the new year, and then I've started ramping up my the holiday promos and advertising and things like that. But that's the goal, really, is to try to get a minimum of 50 a day, maximum 75, just because I can manage that. And then, like I said, as soon as I get a response, then we start the next phase of the process, the follow-ups, see can we make some contacts and things like that. So that's kind of what I do.
Okay, that's cool. Matt, I see you're here, and I know you're getting some really impressive deal flow coming through at the moment. Do you set goals at all that you're measuring?
I don't really set specific goals. I kind of just know what I need to do every day, and I kind of just follow that same kind of routine.
Yeah.
And I'm making sure that my numbers are going up consistently. So I've been with you guys for about 6 weeks, I think 6 or 7 weeks.
Yeah.
And when I started, I think I had maybe like 50 contacts on LinkedIn, and now I'm up to right around 600. So I've seen basically that, I'm adding 75 to 100 new contacts per week on average. And that's been working out really well.
Okay, that's perfect. So in some way you're measuring what you're doing, right? Although you haven't specifically set a particular type of goal at this stage.
Right. Yeah. So I'm trying to get out, 50 to 100 connections per day.
Yeah.
Send those out. And, I'll get anywhere from 10 to 20, will come back and connect with me. But I don't have like a set in stone type of goal. I just, my goal is more to spend time on each thing that needs to be done every day.
Yeah, no, that's cool.
Yeah, and that's a huge piece of this, like having anything, especially marketing related, done on a daily basis so that it's like consistent. Like consistency with this is the biggest thing. You want to be doing it every single day and kind of spread the load out over multiple days. You don't want to just try to do all of this in one day and then hope it's covered for the rest of the week. It needs to be like a constant every single day sort of action so you can get into a rhythm and flow with it and see like the numbers come in and start to get a feel for how that's going to turn over and what you can expect. So you can make those changes and kind of adapt to how it's performing.
Yeah, exactly. And then also, I think it's important to kind of chunk what you're doing, into little segments so it doesn't become overwhelming and say, 100%. I'm going to spend 3 hours straight on this thing. Well, you don't really have to do that. You can do it in, half hour to 45-minute chunks, go on and do something else, maybe come back to it a little bit later and continue on that.
Yeah, in fact, we've got that a little bit later on in the training, so I'll show you how we do that sort of chunkable stuff. Sorry, did I just interrupt somebody there?
Nope.
Well, Gab, I just wanted to.
Yeah.
I think that was Matt that was speaking. This is Derek. I just wanted to support what he just said because I know just from even recently, if I see that something has to get done for 2 or 3 hours, that's overwhelming, I think, to most human beings. But if you chunk it down to 30 minutes to 45 minutes or even 45 minutes to an hour, at least lately for myself, it's becoming a lot more manageable to get something done.
And that's exactly, you're doing the right sort of stuff there. And what I want to just focus on, hang on 2 seconds, guys. Enrique's just messaged me about joining, so I've just sent the link. Is I just want to take this a level deeper, right? Because especially when we're starting out, you're all kind of dialing yourself in. And I say this a lot, it's important that you dial yourself in. So the idea is, if you're setting a goal, and it is important that you have an objective, because you've got to understand what it is you're doing for, right? And if let's be honest, when we're sending out invitations and things like that, it can get a little bit monotonous and boring. And I know personally for me, I find it really tough to do, you know. So the reason I'm setting these sort of goals is that I want to know that, you know, there's a reason, there's an outcome that I'm driving towards for doing it. And so when you're starting out, you don't know anything. You don't really know if if I said I want to get 100 leads this month doing organic outreach, you don't know what's required to achieve said outcome. So a lot of you guys are doing the right thing by saying, I'm sending up between 50 and 100 invitations a day. But you kind of need to understand, well, what's the objective with that? Because just getting some leads in is not enabling yourself to dial yourself in and become really efficient. And Matt sort of mentioned chunkable time, and I'll go into this in a little bit more detail. But the point is that you could be spending your time doing 100 invites a day and say only generating 10 leads a month and thinking, I'm doing really well, right? And you might be getting some of those funded. But the reality is, without measuring those goals, and I'll come into that in a second, you don't know that with a few tweaks on your messaging or whatever it may be, you could double or treble that lead flow, right? So it's really important that we sort of set a goal, and you're right by making it leads, not monetary, because again, we don't know anything yet. We don't know what the average deal is that you're going to get funded, all those kind of things. So if we said, I want to bring in, say, 10 leads a month, that then becomes 5 leads a week. What is it we need to do to achieve that outcome? And then you start breaking that down even further. So if you're sending out 50 a day, you want to then be, let's see what I've got here. There we go. Understand your stats to achieve your goals. So if you're sending out 50 invitations a day, is that actually going to be enough to achieve the 5 leads a week, right? And maybe it will, or maybe it won't. And maybe you're doing it and you're falling short of it. But then if you're tracking everything, and Annette, we spoke about this earlier on, we can look at, well, if I'm not hitting my 5 leads a week, am I getting the conversions I need from LinkedIn to ensure I'm getting the connections and therefore a big enough audience to achieve the 5 leads a month? So without that, we can't troubleshoot. So it's not just about understanding what your goals are and why you're doing it. It's about understanding what is it we need to fix if things aren't working the way you want them to, so we can dial you in to maximize your revenue opportunities.
Yeah, and what I would say is really exciting about this, and pretty much all of marketing that's ran like this, is that once you have those numbers, you can really clearly identify where the problem is and then go to work solving that particular issue. And like Gavin mentioned earlier with like the connection example with you, I think, Patricia, there's usually only 1 or 2 things that impact any of these different places. So a lot of people get into this stuff and they're like, oh, it doesn't work. And like, I don't know if anybody's had experience with this in the past in other businesses, but they do these kinds of things and you get into this situation where it's not working and you're not sure why, so you get overwhelmed and you just quit all of it. But the truth is, if you look at how this stuff works, there's usually only 1 or 2 things that impact each of these stages. So if you're not getting people to connect with your messages, like if you look at it, you're sending 100, you're only getting 2, well, that's like way below the number we would expect. And there's only really 2 things that impact that. There's the message that you're sending. If it's not a good message, you're obviously not going to get people to connect with you. And it's going to be different for every market. So you've kind of got like a base template, but you can work that message to fit a particular market better, and then you'll get a higher rate. And the second thing is obviously who you're sending it to. So if you're sending it to people who check their LinkedIn profile once every 10 years, then you're probably not going to get connections. So maybe there could be a market issue or something like that. Or maybe just the individual profiles, how you're qualifying them. But basically, there's only a couple of things that impact that. And if you go to work solving them, like you may get lucky and have it work out of the gate. You might pick the perfect market. The template message might be perfect to start with. But if it's not, what's really exciting to me about this is that everybody can get results and be successful with this if you just go to work figuring out where the block is and then just fix it and move on to the next one. And it may only be that first one that like you need to unlock, and then you'll have qualified leads coming in and start to see the results flow through the rest of the business that you need to start funding deals quickly. So it's really exciting because it is 100% controllable when you break it down to what's going on. And as long as you just keep taking action on it and see where the block bugs are, and then focus on solving those, you're pretty much guaranteed to figure it out over a long enough period of time. It just takes some effort and energy. And unfortunately, most people, just quit too soon on it. So if you remember that, it's really exciting. And you can literally get to the point where 200 connections on LinkedIn is going to generate you 4 or 5 quality leads. And when you know that, you can break it down to kind of how much money they're worth to, because you can figure out what your average amount of actual commissions is on that. And you can break it down and know 200 messages is worth X amount of dollars for you, which makes it way more exciting to go and start sending those messages every day.
And so, thanks, Patrick. On this guys, so with LinkedIn, it's pretty straightforward, right? You do want to be aiming for at least 10 leads a month. And if you're doing 50 invitations a day and you're not getting 10 leads a month, then reach out to me. We need to look at what's going on, because that is a very straightforward outcome. And it's like you were saying, Derek, you're looking at quality of the lead flow. 50 invitations a day in the right market will give you 10 quality leads. And again, it doesn't mean they're all going to fund or anything else, but you're going to be getting into really good quality conversations. So reach out to me on that basis if you don't know that. But again, I just want to re-emphasize this one. Just understand your statistics, measure the things that you need to measure. So if you're sending out 50, how many people are connecting with you? How many are you getting over a week? How many is that giving you a month? And that will give us some understanding of, we can actually extrapolate that data to understand, you should actually be getting in 20 or 30 leads based on the outreach that you're doing. And then we can reverse engineer and try fixing the problems. All right. Does anyone have any questions there at all? Sorry.
Hey, Gavin, this is Derek. I have a quick question.
Yeah.
Now, I know that prior you said that don't go over 100. Is that the 100 invites that you send out to your lead list that you saved on LinkedIn?
Correct. Yeah. No more than 100 a day.
Okay. So no more than 100 a day. Now, Is there a bad time of the week or of the day to send out invites?
Not really. It's like what Patrick was saying. It's more around the niche that you're focused on. When I first started out, as an example, I kind of dealt with very small scale contractors, like building contractors. And I had a hell of a time getting through to people on LinkedIn, because one of the things I never factored in is that these guys aren't on LinkedIn. They're out on the building sites doing their thing, right? So, a lot of that is really that massively affects your conversion ratios. But so in terms of the time of day, you want to factor in the niche that you're focused on, which will determine the right times of day to be sending the invitations. I often find as well, and this has worked well for me over pretty much any niche I've focused on. If you're able to do some work on a weekend, you generally get more engagement, because a lot of the time they just kind of sat at home. And you can, for me personally, even with, doing what I do now to, engage more affiliates, the weekend is actually one of the better times for me to do that work. So the main thing is there's no kind of hard and fast rule. You need to kind of dial yourself into your niche, and you just need to test different things out, and you'll gradually start seeing what works and what doesn't.
Okay, thanks.
No worries, man. No worries. And so the other thing, guys, is once you've kind of got yourself dialed into LinkedIn, do make sure you get into Facebook, because the method of outreach is pretty much the same. It just kind of transitions to, getting in the group, sending out your friend request, understanding how many people are connecting with you. If you're not getting too many people, just tweak the messaging on your profile and then start sending out your direct message. And that is by far, if you combine that with LinkedIn, by far the quickest and the easiest way to generate leads, right? And if you combine Facebook as well, there's no reason why you can't be getting to 20 to 30 leads a month with the two platforms. And so if you do that, you've got fundable deals. Sorry, Patrick.
I was just going to say, what's nice about having I think it's smart you want to run it in stages. Like I think Patricia was saying earlier, if you want to get one up and running, don't try to focus on getting two up and running at once. It's just too difficult. Just get one of the plates spinning first. Make sure you know how to work it. Don't worry about trying to get both up at once. But once you have one up and you're confident in it, it'll be easier, because you're not going to be trying to figure it out on both at one time. But once you got one up and running, then you can add in the second one. And what's really great about it is if for whatever reason, all of these things, like most marketing is going to fluctuate. So you'll have some months where one channel is better than the other. By having two of them going, if LinkedIn, for whatever reason, maybe like you're running out of people on a certain niche or in the group that you're in or something, isn't working as well one month, then Facebook can kind of pick up the slack. So it gives you a lot more consistency where you won't have like, you know, one good month followed by a bad month or something. You'll actually have some, it'll smooth out because both channels will kind of fill in each other's gaps, which is really nice when you're trying to do this and know your numbers every single month and see consistent growth.
Thanks, man. And then the next thing is if you're doing this stuff right and you've dialed yourself in, you've got your goals, you're tracking everything, you're going to get lead flow. And, you know, whether this is organic or whether you're doing this paid, it doesn't really matter. So many people overlook follow-up, right? And a lot of people kind of take this sort of assumptive-based view that if I've reached out to somebody or if I've, you know, done some paid advertising and they've applied with me, then that means that they're definitely interested and therefore they'll come to me. They'll be proactive in coming to me. And it couldn't be further from the truth because most of the time, especially with business owners, whatever it is they do with their business, that's the thing that they focus on in the day, right? So they might apply, they might engage with you, but you're then bottom of the list in terms of what they have to prioritize in their day. So you have to follow up, relentlessly follow up, right? Literally, you do not let anyone off the hook unless they specifically tell you in no uncertain terms to not follow them up. Otherwise, they're still a viable prospect, right? And that doesn't matter how long that takes. And the other thing, I mean, this is a kind of, I think lots of people say this, but this is where like 80% of your profit, 80% of the money that you're ever going to make comes because of the follow-up, right? So if you just think that doing the outreach, getting some leads in is all you need to do to make a ton of money, you're massively wrong. And you're leaving a load of money on the table. So this is one of the easiest ways when we sort of see people that maybe have some deal flow and they're looking at scaling it. This is one of the first places we check out where if we want to kind of increase that revenue, it's generally because the follow-up isn't good enough. And if we just do that better, we make more money without really changing anything. And I think,
yeah, and I would say when running our systems, most of the first messages we send don't get a response. It's typically after the second or third follow-up where we get a response. And then even once they're interested, oftentimes, you know, again, like if you're coming in cold to these people's lives and you're trying to like get them interested in your product or service, they like don't know you yet. They haven't built a relationship. So you're just going to have to expect that you're going to have to follow up more. It doesn't mean that they don't care about doing it or anything. It just means that it's not a priority yet. So you just have to be there. And I could tell story after story of people followed up with 7 to 10 times. And, you know, it was never an issue of them finding us annoying or anything. They were just busy. They were trying to work on things in their business. And oftentimes those can be some of the best leads because they're actually like excited about doing things and they work hard on their business. And so, you know, it can just take that long. And it's not an issue of being annoying. It's just, you know, saying, hey, just wanted to follow up on this, wanted to see if you got this. People have a ton of plates spinning and they have a ton going on in their businesses. And so it's normal for them to get distracted and you just need to take the initiative to follow up with them. Because like I said, like most of our deal flow, and I think Gavin can back this up, comes from leads that we followed up with multiple times. So you're leaving a huge amount of money on the table if you don't have that follow-up in place.
Absolutely true. And also, guys, just to clarify, that's not just about follow-up in terms of the outreach work that you're doing. It also is even when you've got a deal in, like someone might have even filled in the application form, and then they typically just disappear again, you know. So follow up in every step of the process until they're actually funded. It's vital that you do that.
Yeah, you just have to take responsibility for each stage because every single stage will need you kind of pushing the deal forwards. Otherwise, people will just kind of fall off the rails and you're going to lose a lot of. And I always think like if you spend a lot of energy and time to get those leads in the pipeline to begin with, you don't want to lose them because you didn't stay in touch with them and follow up with them and help push them all the way through to closing.
Yeah, absolutely right. Do you guys have any questions about that at all? No, sorry, I'm kind of ahead of myself with my my slides. And so yeah, just to finalize that bit there, and this is kind of like with everything that you do, you have to be relentless. I don't know if you have this saying in America, but we have a saying here, like, you know, you need to be like a dog with a bone, right? You've got to literally not let it go. and just keep going and going and pushing and pushing and pushing. And that's really the trick to kind of consistency every single month and getting it past the sort of the 10K plus. And that's also where we can build in systems. I'm going off on another topic, but so it's being relentless that's going to get you these results. And then the final thing is marketing. And, this is Patrick's kind of thing, but I'll just kind of quickly let you know, the main thing here is that the stuff that you're doing when you're doing outreach, right? You want to be maximizing the opportunity to really understand your market's problems, getting on the phone as much as possible. Even if this person isn't going to become a lead or you don't think they even want funding, try and get on the phone and ask questions to understand the problems that they have in their business. Because a lot of the time, and I'm jumping forward a little bit here, and I know Patrick will want to come in, but if you understand the problems, it changes the way you construct your messaging, and it doesn't just become about funding. Because the simple truth is, they don't come to you for funding because they need funding. It's because the funding they're going to get is going to solve a problem. And so if you're niched to a specific market, then a lot of these problems become consistent. They transfer from business to business to business, especially when they're in their sort of their growth cycles. So the more you understand this, the better your messaging can resonate with your client base or your market, and therefore it directly affects the number of leads that you get in and the number of deals that you get funded.
Yeah, and this is huge because it makes the message way more relatable. It makes the message seem way more genuine. And you can start to just add little things that show that you understand their market or their industry, and just tiny little changes in wording or language that show that you're kind of an insider, that you are specifically for their market, and you know how to communicate with them, you know their challenges. That is going to improve your chances of winning that deal over anybody else, and also convincing them that you're trustworthy and that they should want to work with you. So those tiny little tweaks start to make a big difference when you stack them. And that's why it's important to kind of get to know a specific market and work with them in particular, and really start to figure out all the things that they care about. So when you're having conversations with them, you really start to have a huge advantage in terms of knowing, where that conversation is going to go well in advance.
So do any of you got, sorry, I'm interrupting again.
Well, yeah, I was going to say, I completely agree, Gavin. I was working one of the leads that I got, and he stated that he wasn't necessarily looking for the equipment funding. Rather, more so, he was looking for a location. And so the conversation then became, okay, well, you know what? I got a couple of realtor friends. Let me put a call in or two for you and get you connected. Well,
yeah.
About a day or so after that, he sent me a message and was like, hey, I really appreciate you looking out. Your realtor guy was real professional, and I think we might have a lead on the plate. So, I completely agree with what you guys are saying, and I know that to be true because, that's what we did there, and I think, Gavin, you helped me with that as well. So,
yeah,
that is actually true. It really does work if you can just start a personal conversation in some kind of way and really see what it is that they really need.
Yeah, you're absolutely right there, Jerome. And I want to kind of emphasize this, and I know it is connected to productivity because you need to take the time to do this, and this directly affects your lead flow and your goals, your monetary goals and your lead number goals. But the thing about doing this is that if you think about the wider broking market, you are competing with a lot of different people that are doing this. Some are just starting out, some are not as good as you, and some of them are better than you, right? So the simple fact is that most of these guys are having the same type of conversation with their leads, right? And I call these transactional or surface level conversations. They're kind of just saying, well, hey, do you need funding, and how much, it's the same, it's always around funding. But if you actually understand the problems that these guys have, then you naturally start having a deeper conversation. And it's such a simple way to stand out from the crowd, because that client would have definitely spoken to other brokers, right? But your conversation is now completely different because it's about them and their business, and you're demonstrating you understand their business. So it's a really, really great way to build longevity in your relationships, and just ensure that, I think every single one of you have talked about how we help build out a personal brand. And I've actually had a few calls today where they're like, I don't understand what you mean, right? I'm not saying you guys don't, but this is the sort of stuff that does that. This is how you build a personal brand. by having a different type of conversation. So I can't emphasize this enough. Really take the time to ask the questions to understand their problems, because it will change everything for you. And ultimately, the reason that we kind of started doing this, and I started doing this back in the day, is because I'm lazy. I don't want to be kind of like hamster on the wheel, pumping out invitations all of the time. I want people coming to me so I can kind of do less work, but fund more deals. And so if you're kind of starting out, it just makes sense that you maximize the effort that you're putting in right now to do this stuff, to build that foundation so that you can build something meaningful and worthwhile thereafter. Any questions on that before I move on? Cool. Again, I'm jumping the gun. So craft your messages around those problems. So let's get into structuring your day, right? So this is all great. But then ultimately, as Patrick was saying, we all get the same amount of time in the day. And if we're having these kind of, objectives of I want 10 leads, 20 leads, whatever it's going to be, well, what you do in your day actually matters. And Matt kind of mentioned this earlier on about, chunking your day. And I call it block booking your day in chunks. So what I kind of did was just like, this is how I do things, right? So I've kind of done my calendar. And you can do this in any way you want to do. I personally use a calendar, and I block book myself down to, like Matt was saying, half-hour chunks. I can kind of give myself 2-3 hours on things now, because that doesn't faze me, because I know what is required with each one of these activities. But I don't waste any time. Like if I have a break, it's structured. It's kind of booked in ahead of time. So what that means is that I know that for the things that I need to do to equate to lead flow and funded deals, you reverse engineer everything down to how much time is required for each given task to achieve the objective. So what I would be doing if I were you guys would be, 9 a.m. to 10 a.m., whatever that time frame is, your LinkedIn connections. So it may well be that doing 100 invitations takes you longer than 1 hour. Then you might want to say, well, okay, if it's taking me longer than an hour, what is it I need to do so that I can do it within an hour? So this is about, again, dialing yourself in and improving your efficiencies. Because if you can limit the number of hours you're doing on given tasks, that means you can maximize the potential that any given day offers you, right? So 9 to 10 LinkedIn connections, 10 to 11 LinkedIn follow-up. If you're sending connections, you're obviously going to get people engaging with you, or you're going to need to do just some follow-up. So you need to measure the time you need to be able to do that efficiently. And the reason, again, that you want to block book all of this stuff in is that every single day should be a rinse repeat exercise, right? You turn up, you do the same things. And what this prevents is overwhelm. It's second guessing that you're doing anything. So when we kind of talk about, just trust the process we're giving you, just follow the methods. This is really what it's all about. You don't have to think too much about what you're doing. It's just do the same stuff every day. And if you do the same stuff every day, you get leads, we get deals funded. So again, you might not want to work 9 till 6. You might want to do less. You might have less time in the day. It doesn't matter. The point is, you need to reverse engineer your goals into chunkable time, and then work out how you fit that around your day or your week. Anybody have any?
And I would just add, and definitely highly recommend starting the day with those outbound activities, because those outbound activities are they're the only thing that are going to get deals in your pipeline. So if you're not doing Facebook, if you're not doing LinkedIn, if you're not doing any of the other methods we have in there, those are the only things that are going to put deals. And then unless you're doing other actual marketing related things, but marketing and sales are the only things that are actually going to have a direct result on how much revenue that you bring in. And so I always prioritize that in our day. It's the very first thing I want to get done, because if nothing else gets done, that's the one thing that I want to have accomplished that day, so that I make sure I'm consistently hitting those targets. And we've got a big whiteboard up, and every single day we're marking off that we're doing Instagram, that we're doing Facebook, that we're doing LinkedIn, that we're doing all these different channels. And if I get nothing else done, I'm at least checking off that day's outbound was done for the business, because again, that's, if you think about it, it's the only thing. This is where, like I was saying earlier, people mess this up. They focus on other stuff that's not actually moving the needle, these like small insignificant things, and they seem like more pressing because they're like tasks you can knock out easily. But the marketing and sales is the only thing that actually puts deals in your pipeline. So that's the one thing you want to make sure that you get done on any given day. And that's why I like to start the day with it.
And actually, just to second that, the reason I like to start the day with it is because I absolutely hate doing LinkedIn. So I kind of know that if I get it out of the way early, I've got no like real excuses, right? So I've learned that if I leave it till later in the day, I generally make an excuse not to do it, and that ultimately affects the results that I get. So I know for me, get it done out of the way first, and then I can get on with the rest of my day.
Motivation and everything. Yeah,
yeah, exactly. And then, like, I don't know if you've noticed here, but I kind of schedule things like my lunch breaks. I might read a book or do some research whilst eating. Now, I'm not saying you have to go to that level, but I personally find that when my mind's not focused on, you know, the stuff I need to do to make money, I then kind of work out, well, what is it I'm lacking in terms of knowledge right now that will just aid me doing the things I need to do to make money. So then I'll kind of create, you know, book lists or whatever it may be, and then I can then achieve that in my, essentially my downtime. I can then achieve more. That's the reason I do it that way. And then the reason I kind of have, like, you know, go over sales training here. We've got some sales training coming out in the program. I want to practice the scripts back, just make sure they work and do research. At this point of the day for me, I'm kind of mentally quite fatigued. So I kind of want to do the stuff that's not going to tax me mentally as much at that point in the day. So you'll work out for yourselves what works best for you. But for me, that's the reason why my days are pretty much structured in that way. And every single day, they pretty much look the same. You know, there's the thing that changes it for me is I do have people booking calls to talk about the program. So that might change things around. But generally speaking, same thing every day, rinse, repeat. And that's how you get results. Any questions there, guys? No? Cool. And then, the final thing is ignore the 80%. So what is it I mean by that? And Patrick was saying the same sort of thing, right? You need to understand the 20% that's going to move your needle, because 20% of what you do will give you 80% of your results. And it's that Pareto's law, and it's been proven time and time again. So as you do what you do, you're going to get distracted by lots of different things coming in. You know, maybe there's lots of different emails. Maybe you're thinking, oh, I don't know this. How do I find out the answer? You know, and if that answer or knowing that thing is not conducive to you just getting the invitation sent out or whatever it may be, don't do it. Schedule it for another time, right? So just keep focused on the things that move the needle. And ultimately in what we're doing, the only things that are going to move the needle is getting the invitations done, getting the follow-up done, and obviously dialing in your marketing message. Anything that's not really related to that, you know, it's not that you don't do it, but you can't prioritize it. It needs to come at another point in the day or in the week or even over the weekend. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Brilliant. Patrick, do you have anything to add there at all?
No, I think that's pretty good. I mean, just like we said before, it's like mostly this is like the stuff that's going to actually get deals in.
Cool. So that's basically it for the training, guys. If any of you guys want to book a one-on-one with me to kind of help you get your day structured, get you set up so that you can be more productive, you know where I am. Just feel free to reach out. But other than that, do any of you have any questions at all about what we've gone over?
No.
No.
Oh, go ahead.
No.
Okay, guys. Right. So I've recorded. Oh, yep.
Oh, I'm just gonna drop two more things that I thought of while we were going through this, and I made note of that I think are kind of relevant. The first one is just like that. This is like, even if you're not hitting the numbers that you want to be hitting in terms of the conversions and how many leads you're getting from things, so you're doing a certain amount of outbound out of connections, and you're not necessarily getting the right number of people that you want to connect with you from that. This is a volume game at the end of the day. So if you need to add more channels, if you need to do like as much time as you have available for this, again, it's the one thing that's going to get you the thing that I'm guessing everybody here wants at the end of the day, which is more revenue coming in and more like deals funding. So this is where, if you're going to put your time into anything, this is where you want to do it. And it is a volume game at the end of the day. So the more you can do, the more channels you can get up and running, it's definitely worth it to put time into that. And then you can kind of optimize as you go to make them more effective so that your time is like generating better results. But just because it's not necessarily the most efficient to begin with, it doesn't mean that it's still not a good idea to put a lot of time and energy into it, because you're going to need to do it a lot to get it to be efficient, to figure out where the kinks are. And then also, just by upping the numbers, you're going to be able to have a better chance of hitting your targets anyways. And that kind of leads into the second thing that I wanted to say, which is that one thing that a lot of people do in business and a lot of other areas is when they're not hitting the targets, they kind of move the targets. But I would recommend just increasing the amount of outbound that you do. So if you're not getting the number of leads that you want, look at how much you did last week or how much you did last month or whatever it is, and then just increase the numbers off of that. So if for whatever reason you're not getting the right amount of connections, just increase the number of connections if you're not doing that yet. And just go through and move the actual volume before you change the target, because it doesn't look like you can hit it with the way you're doing it currently.
Yeah, good advice there, man. Okay, guys. So that is that for the training. I've recorded it, so I will share this if you want to go over anything again. But as I say, if any of you have any specific questions, you want to go over structuring your day, you know where I am. Please reach out. Happy to help.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Righto,
Thanks, guys.
No worries at all.
Thank you.
No problem.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right.
See you soon.
All right.
Hey, everyone.
Patrick, are you all right for 5 minutes afterwards?
Yeah, for sure.
Thanks, man. Cool.
Bye.